Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah, and we are back again for another episode, and it is the day after Super Bowl 51, and man, it was an historic one. It was a very historic game for a couple of reasons. We saw the largest comeback in Super Bowl history, and then we saw the first overtime ever in Super Bowl history. And, you know, it looked like the game was going to go one way, and then momentum shift the other way. Well, in case you guys didn't know, the New England Patriots are your 2017 Super Bowl champions. They defeated the Atlanta Falcons 34-28, and Atlanta jumped out to a 21-3 lead at the half. And you know, a lot of people were like, "Well, it looks like that the Patriots are finally have met their match. It looks like they are going down." And when Atlanta, extend the lead to 28-3, I was like, you know what? It is still early in the game. I still think you can't really count out Tom Brady. You can't count him out yet. So when fourth quarter came, we saw everything go New England's way. They literally scored. They scored 19 points in the fourth quarter. They scored 25 unanswered points. And it is amazing what the Patriots accomplished last night. It truly is. Tom Brady set Super Bowl records in passing yards, pass attempts, completions, even got his fourth MVP award. He got career wins at the Super Bowl. He actually is tied with 5 with Charles Haley, but passed Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana at the quarterback position for most wins in Super Bowl. So the Patriots scored 31 unanswered points after the score was 28-3. 25 points that the Falcons had. They had a 25-point lead. When you have a 25-point lead against this Tom Brady offense, you got to do what got you there. And I know that's passing the ball with Matt Ryan and, passing it to Julio Jones, who made a great catch in the fourth quarter, by the way. No one really wants to talk about that. But when you watch this game, you can't really count out Tom Brady. And I think now we can officially say that Tom Brady is the GOAT. I think it's finally time to say. I know people don't want to hear it, but I think that's finally time. And I'll get, another player that was really good, really great last night was James White. He was basically the go-to guy. He has some records of, by himself. He had 3 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion that's equal to 20 points. That knocked Denver's Terrell Davis and about half of the players from the San Francisco 49ers offense from the 80s and 90s out of the record books for the most points in Super Bowl history. But when I think about this game compared to Super Bowls in the past, I don't know if I can say it's the greatest Super Bowl of all time. I still feel like a couple years ago when the Patriots were playing the Seahawks, I still think that was a good game. I still think that's a top 5 game. I still think Pittsburgh and Arizona is a good game. I still think the Giants and the Patriots is a good game. And, you can't forget about the Patriots comeback against the Rams in 2002. We can't forget about that. The Patriots were down 17-7, and then they tied up at 17, and then they won it 20-17. So we can't forget about that. So that was a good game too. That was the game that started a whole Patriots dynasty. And then you flash forward 2 years later, and I truly think when the Patriots defeated the Carolina Panthers in Houston, the infamous Janet Jackson game. That was a good Super Bowl too. Carolina really came back, and they made it a game against the Patriots, and the Patriots came out on top. So when I say this game is the best of all time, I don't know if I can put it ahead of some of those games. I can't put it ahead of the Seahawks and the Patriots. I don't know if I can put it ahead of the Giants and the Patriots, the David Tyree catch game. I don't know if I can put it ahead of those, but this is definitely going to be in the top 10 because this is one of the most historic games in Super Bowl history. I've never seen a 25-point comeback. I've never seen an overtime game. I'm glad I got both of them last night. I really think this game lived up to the hype. I truly think it did. And at first I was disappointed that, this is going to be a blowout. It was looking like a blowout, 20-3. But I knew it wasn't because, you just can't count out Tom Brady. And I do think Tom Brady is officially the greatest of all time. I think we have to officially put him in that category. I just don't think he's just the greatest quarterback of all time. I think he might be the greatest football player of all time. I truly do. I can truly put him ahead of Jerry Rice. I can, put him ahead of Joe Montana, obviously. I can put him ahead of Emmitt Smith. I can put him ahead Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was looked at to be one of the best running backs of all time. You think of Jim Brown. You can put him up there. With Tom Brady getting his 5th ring, he looks like he's not even done yet. I feel like he's going to play till he's like 45, and there's a report yesterday saying, the Patriots believe he can play 3 to 5 more years, and that's why they're willing to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. So, when I look back at this game, a lot of people would say, the Falcons choked this game away, which is true. They did, 25-point lead. But when I look back at this game, I do think it's going to be known as the game that Tom Brady finally cemented his legacy as the greatest of all time and the most historic way possible. So enough about Tom Brady. I kind of want to talk about the Falcons here. The Falcons, this was their second Super Bowl ever in franchise history. This city of Atlanta has not had a championship since '95 when the Braves won the World Series. Atlanta looked like they were going to run away with this game at 28-3, and I think most of the general public thought so too. Well, when the Patriots were barely chucking away to make it 20-28, I was like, oh no, it looks like they're about to, oh no. I feel like they didn't run the ball enough. I just don't think they did, Because when I compare the two quarterbacks, Tom Brady threw it for 62 times. Obviously, he had to throw a lot more because the Falcons were ahead 28-3. And Matt Ryan only threw 23 times. And I just don't think they ran the ball enough. When I look at the running backs from Atlanta, Devonta Freeman only carried the ball 11 times. He had 75 yards. He averaged 6.8 yards a carry and a touchdown. Why didn't you continue giving the ball? He was running hot on most of the day. Tevin Coleman, you could have got him in there too. He has 7 carries for 29 yards and averaged 4.1 yards a game. Why didn't you run the ball to keep this team off the field? Did you get like a little cocky or something like that? You have a 28-3 lead. Why do you have to constantly just throw the football? Just run it. Your running back. Your running back. They're pretty hard to defend. This defense had a tough time defending Devonta Freeman the whole entire night, and they don't even go back to him. I just don't get it. If you run the ball more effectively, and if Devonta Freeman clearly was running the ball effectively, you would be the champion. This game wouldn't even go into overtime. This game would have been over in the third. Well, I don't know, man. I feel really bad for the Atlanta fans because they were watching their team in the biggest spectacle of all sports. The whole world is watching, leading the game 28-3, and then they blow it. They just blow it. What does this say about the Falcons quarterback? What does it say about Kyle Shanahan, the offensive coordinator? What does it say about quarterback Matt Ryan? Honestly, I think he played great. He went 17 of 23, 284 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. I think he played great. I just felt like they didn't run the ball enough. And maybe that's alluded to Kyle Shanahan a little bit, who is going to be the 49ers head coach officially. He's officially going to take that job now. But what does it say about Kyle Shanahan's offensive philosophy? Is this going to, is this something we expect more? How do you even do that? 28-3. It's just astonishing to me. 28-3. How do you do that? I just don't know. That's astonishing to me. But honestly, I just think this game, I'm not going to say the Falcons lose it. I just think the Patriots were just the better team. Like I said on Friday, the Patriots had been there before. History was on their side, and whenever the number one defense plays the number one offense, they're 5-1. And, this defense did show up when they needed to. But all I got to say is congrats to the New England Patriots and Tom Brady for his 5th ring. And he is the MVP of the game. And there's a thing that I wanted to talk about before I go to the break here. There was a commercial, an ad that came out yesterday. I think it was after the game. And I forgot the name of the company that was advertising. I totally forgot what the name was. But in this commercial, Tom Brady is in the waiting room. And, there's a lady that comes out saying, put your things in this lock box. And it was a lock box. And when she opens up the lock box, Tom Brady puts his rings in there. He puts 4 of them. And then he gets out the one he just won. He's like, oh, this one's kind of new. And the lady that was helping Tom Brady's all, oh, we're going to need you a bigger box. And then Tom Brady ends the commercial, Roger that. And my gosh, the shade that he just threw at Roger Goodell was just insane. I was like, whoa, did that just happen? Did Tom Brady just throw shade? Yeah, he did. But the company that it was for Shields MRI, medical company, I'm assuming. But yeah, man, I just think that's hilarious. He just throws shade at Roger Goodell. he completes the most historic comeback in Super Bowl history, and he won his 5th all-time, and had played in the 7th Super Bowl. So, literally, all I can say now is that Tom Brady finally separated himself from the rest of the pack. And if it wasn't for a David Tyree catch, and if Wes Welker would have caught that pass, even though it was a little kind of overthrown, Tom Brady might be looking at 7 Super Bowls right now. 7 Super Bowl wins. He might, but 5 out of 7, that's still not too shabby there. Well, I'm going to take my first break, and when I get back, I'm going to talk about the Hall of Fame inductees. The inductees got announced on Saturday before the Super Bowl, and there's one in particular player that didn't make it, and I'm going to tell you why he should have made it, and it's a disgrace that he's not going to be in it. I think you guys might know who I'm talking about. I will talk about the inductees when I come back to the G.O.A.T Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame inductees were announced on Saturday. So this year's Hall of Fame class for 2017, who will be inducted in August in Canton, Ohio. The inductees include kicker Morton Anderson, Terrell Davis, Kenny Easley, Jerry Jones, Jason Taylor, Damian Thomason, and Kurt Warner. And for most of you wondering why Terrell Owens is not on the list, that is because Terrell Owens did not make the Hall of Fame. He actually tweeted about him not being inducted before even any of the inductees were announced. So Terrell Owens took to Twitter and said, "Unfortunately, I did not make it again this year. Thanks to all my fans and supporters, #flawed process." And then he went on to say, "When you align expectations with reality, you will never be disappointed. To my family, friends, and fans, I'm a Hall of Famer, #flawed process." And don't get me wrong, I do like this year's inductees. I think the Damian Thomason. I do think Jerry Jones. I do think Kirk Warner, Terrell Davis, Kenny Easley, Morton Anderson. They're all deserving. Even though I am surprised that Terrell Davis did get in this year. I thought he would have took him a while. I do think that I did say that Damian Thompson is the first ballot Hall of Famer. He had probably one of the greatest seasons for a running back in NFL history. Kurt Warner, he had some ups and downs, but he had a really great career with the Rams. Was really good with the Cardinals, even though he had some bad years in between those teams with the New York Giants. He was the bridge quarterback before Eli Manning stepped in. And Jerry Jones, we all know what he has done for the NFL game. We all know what he has done with the Cowboys franchise. We all know what he's done. He's real infamous, so to speak, but he is very deserving, and I'm not surprised if with Eddie DeBartolo finally getting in last year, there was a way for Jerry Jones to get in. So I do think I'm not surprised about that, and I do think these guys are all deserving. But Terrell Owens does not make it again, and I just think it's a total joke. I think it's a total joke that Terrell Owens is not being inducted to the Hall of Fame. He was I think he was the best receiver in his generation, and which is the generation that I grew up watching. He was probably one of the best. He was the toughest receiver to ever defend against. He was the best receiver in the league in his prime. And his off the field antics and whatnot is hurting him. And it's kind of like the equivalent of like how the steroid era players are having trouble getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. Like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens. This is the only thing I can compare it to, because that alone will keep those two guys out of the Baseball Hall of Fame. And Terrell Owens' antics off the field and his personality are going to keep him out, even though he is smack dab in the middle for career receiving yards. He is smack dab between Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. Randy Moss is a Hall of Famer. Well, he's not a Hall of Famer yet. Jerry Rice is a Hall of Famer. Randy Moss, for sure, is going to be a Hall of Famer. He is smack dab between those two guys. Jerry Rice is considered probably the best of all time. No doubt he's the best receiver of all time. Then you got Randy Moss, who was a stud when he came into the league. He took the NFL world by storm. And you got Terrell Owens, who is smack dab in the middle between those two guys. He is second in NFL career receiving yards. He's third in NFL in receiving touchdowns. He led the NFL in touchdowns for 3 seasons. 5-time All-Pro. Impressive resume. And it took Chris Carter 6 years to be elected to the Hall of Fame. If it takes Terrell Owens that long, I don't even think he wants to be in it. Like, I feel like he should just be in it already. How do you argue against the numbers of... How do you argue against those numbers? I just think that... there's some guys that I really didn't think they were first ballot Hall of Famers. I like Jason Taylor. I just didn't know if he was going to be a first ballot. And he was a phenomenal player for the Miami Dolphins. But I just felt that Terrell Owens was more deserving than Jason Taylor right now. Don't get me wrong. If Jason Taylor wasn't elected to the Hall of Fame, I really do think Jason Taylor would be elected later. And Jerry Jones, I kind of knew that he was going to probably be in it. Kenny Easley, he didn't play a lot. He didn't play for a long time, so it did take him a while to get in. He did play in the 80s, so maybe he's deserving there. Terrell Davis, his career was shortened, but he is a running back. I kind of feel like he has been waiting for a while to get in. So okay, maybe he's been waiting for a long time to get into the Hall of Fame. Okay, maybe it's his time to finally get inducted. More Anderson, he had a real good career as a kicker, but he is a kicker. Maybe there's some talk that maybe Terrell Owens should have took that spot instead of More Anderson, but he is deserving. David Thompson, no doubt, was the first ballot Hall of Famer. Kurt Warner, even though he had an up and down career, I kind of think his TV, his career as a TV analyst really did help him out with him being inducted to the Hall of Fame, because if you just looked at his career with the Rams and Cardinals, sure, but I feel like people always forget that he was on the Giants. And he was terrible on the New York Giants. He was terrible. He was the guy to bring in before Eli Manning started. He was the bridge quarterback there. But he was the sole reason why the Cardinals were relevant in the late 2000s. Kurt Warner was a part of that Greatest Show on Turf in the late 90s. So so I feel like he could have waited to be a Hall of Famer, but no doubt I really think he did have Hall of Fame. He didn't have the particular Hall of Fame numbers, but he brought two teams to relevancy. The Browns, they were good. Actually, I remember when Trent Brown was supposed to be the quarterback for the Rams, and then he went down, and then Kurt Warner stepped in and took the Rams all the way to the Super Bowl. So, for that is Hall of Fame worthy in itself. Because the Cardinals, he wasn't even supposed to be the starting quarterback on that team. It was supposed to be Matt Leinart. They drafted Matt Leinart in the first round. Then they found out he was a bust. And then Kurt Warner's sitting on the bench again, and then takes his team to the playoffs. Takes them to the Super Bowl, the first ever Super Bowl ever, and puts on a really good performance. Kurt Warner was a San Antonio Holmes catch in the end zone, and he was a Adam Vinatieri field goal. He was 2 plays away from getting 3, but he does have one. And I think Kurt Warner is deserving, even though he kind of did it in a unconventional way. I just felt like he would have got voted on later. But to Terrell Owens, I just felt like I just don't get why he's just not in it. I think the only way Terrell Owens to get into the Hall of Fame is if all the Pro Football Hall of Fame writers and voters. If I just feel the only way for Terrell Owens to get into the Hall of Fame is for the voters and the writers to die. I think, they're all old. I just feel like once all of them die, I feel like Terrell Owens is finally going to make it to the Hall of Fame, because remember a lot of these, and I'm not wishing death upon any of the writers or anything like that. The point I'm making is that most of the writers are a little more older gentlemen. They're in their 60s, 70s. They're up there in age. And, they Terrell Owens' antics kind of rubs, people the wrong way, especially in that generation. So I think the only way for him to get in a Hall of Fame is if the writers just basically get younger. That, honestly, that's the only way. And it is a travesty. It is absurd. And there's really nothing else I can say. You guys pretty much know what I want. You guys pretty much know what I'm saying. I think most people could agree with me that Terrell Owens is a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. Well, I'm going to take my last break, and I'm going to recap the awards list. MVP, offensive, defensive rookie of the year. I'm going to recap the full NFL awards list that were announced at the NFL Honors Awards on Saturday night. When I get back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Well, the NFL awards were announced Saturday night at NFL Honors, which was televised on Fox. There's really not a whole lot of surprises here, when these awards. So the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. And when Dak accepted the award, he actually brought Ezekiel Elliott with him. And first thing he said was, "Do we have a knife so we can cut this thing in half?" And I really do like that. Because I feel like Dak feels Ezekiel Elliott deserved the award more than he did. And it honestly, though, I kind of feel like they should have had a co-offensive rookie of the year. I feel like, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, I just think those two guys alone should have got, they could have got the award together. But I think they didn't. I think the Associated Press didn't want to do that. Don't get me wrong, Dak Prescott was phenomenal this year. I think he was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. He's only a rookie, and which is amazing in itself. Some people have said he is a product of the O-line. Yeah, he could be, but the way he has showed me how he plays, he showed that he's much more than being a product of the O-line. The way he's so poised, that is the best trait that Dak Prescott has, is his poise in the pocket. And his poise in the pocket, the ability to make throws down the field, the ability to make offensive throws. And I was really the thing that impressed me most about Dak Prescott this year was his comeback against the Green Bay Packers. I know they didn't win that game, but that comeback, he made so many plays in that game that I was amazed. And, this Cowboys team is young, and I do think that they're going to be even better, and that's scary because that team was 13-3. So, Dak Prescott wins the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. The Offensive Player of the Year goes to Matt Ryan of the Falcons. The Dallas Cowboys got an award for the Built for Tough Offensive Line of the Year, which is no surprise there. Then you got the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan winning the AP Assistant Coach of the Year, which is not surprise there. He is about to start his head coaching career with the San Francisco 49ers soon. Then you got the AP Coach of the Year, Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys, and there's really no surprise there. I kind of thought it would have went to Jack Del Rio, but with the way that Jason Garrett's coached with two young rookies is pretty amazing. But I just felt that Del Rio was going to get that award. As for the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, you got Joey Bosa of the then San Diego Chargers. Really great, impressive year for that man, and I just think he was the favorite. Once he stepped on the field, and he didn't even play for a full year, and that is scary in itself. And then you got Khalil Mack winning the AP Defensive Player of the Year award. That actually kind of surprised me a little bit because I really thought it was either going to go to Von Miller. I thought London Collins had a great year. I thought he was going to get that award as well. I really thought this was going to be Von Miller's award. And don't get me wrong, Khalil Mack deserves this award. I do think that he is starting to become probably one of the best defensive players in his generation. And I'm very happy that, Khalil Mack won the award. I just felt that, I was surprised. I thought this was going to be Von Miller's award to lose. But I just want to say congrats to Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack and Derek Carr the Oakland Raiders have something in those two guys. And Comeback Player of the Year is no surprise here. You got Jordy Nelson winning the award. Really no surprise there at all. It was I thought, there was no surprise there. There's no drama or anything. I just think Jordy Nelson he won this award single-handedly. He had a great year. Had 14 touchdowns after receiving an ACL injury that kept him out of all 2015. And what a year Jordy Nelson had. And I was going to say, he deserves that award very heavily. And as for the other awards here, actually, there's a couple other awards too that were awarded last night. I think that award didn't make it on TV. For example, Frank Gore wins the Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award. And then you got Derek Carr winning the Castro Edge Clutch Performer of the Year. And you got the FedEx Air and Ground players going to Matt Ryan and Ezekiel Elliott. Then you got the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year. It actually went to Eli Manning and Larry Fitzgerald. And then, you got the Bridgestone Play of the Year which was Mike Evans' one-handed catch against the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. And MVP, the Most Valuable Player award, went to Matt Ryan. There's really no surprise there. He had the best year of his career. He was in the Super Bowl. Really no surprise there. Not at all. So, I think the only few surprises of the year this year was Terrell Owens not making it to the Hall of Fame. Really a surprise there. I kind of think Zeke Elliott was going to win Rookie of the Year, but Dak Prescott took that. Khalil Mack winning Defensive Player of the Year. He had a great year. I just thought that it was Von Miller's award to lose. And then you got Jason Garrett winning Coach of the Year. It's really not a surprise there. I just felt that, Jack Del Rio he brought the Raiders back to the playoffs within 1 year. No, he brought Jack Del Rio coached the Raiders to their first playoff berth since 2002, and I just think that was something that impressive in itself. But who knows? The Raiders are going to come back on strong next year with Derek Carr returning. So that pretty much recaps the awards list from this past weekend, and pretty much Super Bowl weekend in general. We had a great game. You had the Patriots pulling off a 25-point comeback. No team has ever done that. We also had an overtime game. I didn't know we were gonna have an overtime game in a Super Bowl ever. I didn't think it was ever gonna happen. Then we got Hall of Fame inductees announced. We got the awards announced, and now is the bittersweet part. We don't have any football now. That is the bittersweet part of Super Bowl weekend. We have no football to watch this weekend, guys. Not at all. I'm very, very sad that there's no football going to be played, and we have to wait till August again for football to come back. But here at the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, there is no off season, so we're going to be here for your football needs. But that's going to do it for me today. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I'm Jeremiah, and I'll be back tomorrow. I'm actually going to talk about, there's actually a lot of things I got to talk about tomorrow that I didn't get to talk about today. We have Michael Vick announcing his retirement. That's big news. That's big news right there. So I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about any type of news that occurs over the next 24 hours. And I thank you guys for tuning in. And you guys have a great day. And have a pleasant tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.